Have you ever wondered about the mysteries hidden in the far reaches of the earth, places no ordinary human has ever seen? This is the story of Dhul Qarnayn, the mighty king, and his extraordinary journey to protect humanity from the destructive tribes of Yajuj and Majuj. Before we dive in, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us which other mysterious Quranic stories you want uncovered next. Dhul Qarnayn was a ruler unlike any other, strong, wise, and guided by Allah in all his decisions. His power extended across vast lands, from the rising sun in the east to the setting sun in the west. But despite his reach and authority, his greatest challenge was not conquest or wealth. It was protecting innocent communities from the destructive forces of Yajuj and Majuj, tribes whose mischief threatened the peace of the world. The Quran narrates in Surah Al-Kahf verses 83-98 that Dhul Qarnayn traveled through distant lands, encountering nations in need and observing the balance between justice and corruption. As he journeyed, he was approached by a people living near a mountain gap who pleaded for protection against Yajuj and Majuj. They described these tribes as incredibly powerful, capable of spreading chaos and destruction wherever they roamed. Their desperation reveals a timeless lesson. Even the strongest human rulers cannot overcome chaos without divine guidance. Dhul Qarnayn listened carefully. He understood that responding to their plea required not just strength, but wisdom and foresight. He could not act blindly, for Yajuj and Majuj were forces beyond ordinary human control. Scholars emphasize that his approach demonstrates a critical principle: human effort, planning, and action must always be aligned with divine instruction. Strength without guidance is not enough to protect what is good and innocent. The solution Dhul Qarnayn devised was extraordinary. He gathered materials, iron and molten copper, to construct a massive barrier, a wall that would seal off the path of Yajuj and Majuj. Imagine molten metal flowing, solidifying into an impenetrable fortress, stretching between two mountains. The effort required patience, skill, and reliance on Allah. Scholars explain that the Quran emphasizes not just the technical achievement, but the moral and spiritual lessons: protection, foresight, obedience, and reliance on divine wisdom. As the wall rose, it became more than a structure. It became a symbol of justice, foresight, and human responsibility guided by divine wisdom. Dhul Qarnayn knew that while the wall would protect the people for generations, it could not change Allah's plan. Yajuj and Majuj remained contained only until the time decreed by Allah. Their eventual release would be one of the great signs of the approaching day of judgment. This teaches believers that some matters are beyond human control, and ultimate authority always rests with Allah. The journey also reflects Dhul Qarnayn's humility. Despite his extraordinary power, he attributed his success entirely to Allah. Scholars highlight that true leadership combines strength, wisdom, justice, and reliance on divine guidance. Dhul Qarnayn's actions teach a timeless lesson: protection, justice, and moral responsibility require both human effort and submission to Allah's will. Yajuj and Majuj themselves symbolize forces of chaos and corruption that, though hidden, continue to exist in the world. Their containment behind the wall is a reminder of mercy and protection, and also a lesson in spiritual preparedness. Just as communities were shielded physically, believers are encouraged to build spiritual and moral fortresses through faith, righteous actions, and ethical vigilance. Dhul Qarnayn's story is as much a spiritual guide as it is a historical account. The Quran emphasizes that the wall will remain until Allah decides to lift it, reminding humanity that time, fate, and divine decree are beyond human influence. Scholars explain that this is a profound warning. No matter how secure or prepared we think we are, some trials are determined solely by Allah. This teaches patience, humility, and trust in Allah's perfect plan. Dhul Qarnayn's journey from the Far East to the hidden lands of Yajuj and Majuj reflects the perfect balance of human effort and divine will. He acted decisively, yet always sought Allah's guidance, demonstrating that true success requires both action and faith. The story is a call to believers: be prepared, act justly, rely on Allah, and understand that ultimate outcomes are in divine hands. Before we continue to trace the mysterious path of Yajuj and Majuj and explore the secrets of the hidden wall, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us which other Quranic mysteries or prophets' journeys you want us to explore. The tale of Dhul Qarnayn is not just history. It is a timeless guide in leadership, patience, foresight, and reliance on Allah's perfect plan. As Dhul Qarnayn advanced further into the remote lands near the mountains, the enormity of the task ahead became clear. The people he had encountered were desperate. Their lives had been threatened for generations by Yajuj and Majuj, tribes whose strength and cunning were unmatched. No ordinary army could stand against them. But Dhul Qarnayn, guided by Allah, approached the challenge with patience, wisdom, and a vision that extended beyond mere force. The Quran recounts that when the people pleaded for help, Dhul Qarnayn promised them protection, saying that he would build a barrier to contain the destructive tribes. This was no small task. The terrain was rugged, the mountains vast, and the resources limited. Yet he did not hesitate, for his purpose was clear: to protect the innocent and uphold justice. Scholars emphasize that this moment exemplifies the principle that righteous leadership is defined not by personal gain, but by responsibility toward those in need. He gathered materials, iron and molten copper, and began the extraordinary work of constructing the wall. Imagine the sight: molten metal flowing into crevices, solidifying against jagged rock, creating a barrier that would withstand the unimaginable force of Yajuj and Majuj. It was a feat that required precision, patience, and divine blessing. Historians and scholars note that while the technical achievement is remarkable, the Quran emphasizes the moral significance. Dhul Qarnayn acted in obedience to Allah, combining human effort with divine guidance to protect the innocent. As the barrier rose, Dhul Qarnayn reflected on the lessons embedded in this endeavor. Strength alone was insufficient. Without wisdom and guidance from Allah, even the mightiest structure would have been futile. The people who witnessed the construction marveled not only at the physical wall, but at the moral and spiritual leadership that had brought it into existence. It became a symbol of protection, foresight, and the responsibility to act justly in the face of danger. Scholars point out that Yajuj and Majuj represent more than just historical tribes. They symbolize chaos, corruption, and forces that threaten peace and stability, both in Dhul Qarnayn's time and for humanity across generations. The containment of these forces behind the wall serves as a metaphor for spiritual and moral vigilance. Believers are encouraged to fortify their hearts and communities with faith, ethical conduct, and obedience to divine guidance, preparing themselves for challenges that may appear beyond human comprehension. Even as the wall was completed, Dhul Qarnayn reminded the people that its existence was not eternal. The eventual release of Yajuj and Majuj is a matter of divine decree, occurring only at the appointed time set by Allah. This serves as a profound reminder of human limitations. No matter how powerful, knowledgeable, or prepared we may be, ultimate control rests with Allah. Life's trials, whether visible or hidden, unfold according to a wisdom that humans can only partially comprehend. The story also teaches the importance of humility. Dhul Qarnayn, despite his vast reach and might, did not boast of his accomplishments. He attributed every success to Allah's guidance and recognized that human effort alone could not guarantee safety or justice. True leadership, scholars say, combines strength, wisdom, moral integrity, and submission to Allah. The wall, while a tangible achievement, also symbolized the invisible protection and guidance granted by divine support. Another critical lesson emerges from the careful planning and execution of the barrier. Dhul Qarnayn could have relied solely on immediate action or brute force, but he chose a measured approach, combining strategy, skill, and patience. Life, like this endeavor, often demands foresight, careful preparation, and reliance on divine wisdom. Hasty or impulsive action, no matter how powerful, cannot ensure protection or justice without alignment with Allah's guidance. The completion of the wall did not end the story. It marked a moment of reflection for both the people and Dhul Qarnayn. The tribes of Yajuj and Majuj, though contained, were not destroyed. Their existence was a constant reminder that challenges, corruption, and unseen forces continue to exist, and that vigilance, patience, and preparation are necessary virtues for every believer. The Quran's narrative teaches that some threats are restrained only temporarily, and believers must remain spiritually and morally fortified at all times. Furthermore, the journey of Dhul Qarnayn emphasizes the interplay between human effort and divine decree. He acted decisively and with wisdom. Yet the outcome of Yajuj and Majuj's future release remains in Allah's hands. This duality highlights a universal principle. Humans are responsible for their actions, but ultimate authority belongs to Allah alone. Believers are encouraged to act righteously, prepare diligently, and trust in Allah's perfect plan, even when faced with events beyond their understanding. As Dhul Qarnayn departed from the region, the people were safe. Yet they were also reminded of the fragility of security and the importance of faith. Protection, whether physical or spiritual, requires both effort and reliance on Allah. The wall, the journey, and the encounter with the hidden tribes serve as timeless lessons for all generations. Combine strength with wisdom, act with justice, prepare with patience, and always trust in Allah's guidance. Even after the wall was completed, the story of Dhul Qarnayn and the mysterious tribes of Yajuj and Majuj did not end. In fact, it entered a realm of profound mystery, divine wisdom, and timeless lessons that continue to captivate believers today. The barrier, strong and immovable, contained the destructive tribes, yet their presence was a constant reminder of forces beyond human control. Forces that will eventually emerge at Allah's appointed time. The Quran clearly states that Yajuj and Majuj are hidden until the day Allah decides to release them, serving as a sign of the approaching end times. Scholars explain that their concealment behind the wall is not merely a historical account. It is a lesson in patience, vigilance, and preparation. The unseen, unpredictable challenges in life, whether spiritual, moral, or physical, require believers to fortify themselves with faith and righteous actions, knowing that ultimate authority belongs only to Allah. Dhul Qarnayn's interaction with the people he protected offers profound guidance on leadership. He did not impose his will or act arrogantly. Instead, he listened to their concerns, assessed the situation, and executed a plan that combined skill, wisdom, and obedience to Allah. This teaches a timeless principle: leadership is about service, foresight, and justice, not personal glory. True protection and guidance are achieved when human effort aligns with divine instruction. The tribes of Yajuj and Majuj themselves hold symbolic significance. Their immense strength and potential for chaos illustrate that unseen forces, whether spiritual or worldly, are always present and can test human resilience. Dhul Qarnayn's wall represents preparation, foresight, and protective action. Scholars highlight that this story is as much about moral and spiritual fortification as it is about physical defense. Believers are reminded to guard their faith, cultivate patience, and act with wisdom to navigate the unseen challenges in life. Even after securing the people and constructing the massive barrier, Dhul Qarnayn reflected on the limits of human power. Despite his wisdom, strength, and accomplishments, he understood that he could not alter Allah's divine plan. Yajuj and Majuj would remain contained only until their appointed time. This realization teaches believers humility, patience, and the acceptance that some events are determined solely by Allah, no matter how prepared or capable humans may be. The story also emphasizes the importance of justice and moral responsibility. Dhul Qarnayn's approach was measured and fair. He did not punish the innocent or act impulsively. Instead, he combined discernment, knowledge, and obedience to Allah to address a complex problem. This teaches that faith without action is incomplete, and action without guidance is ineffective. Believers are encouraged to act responsibly, seek wisdom, and always rely on Allah's guidance in every decision. Another profound lesson comes from the inevitability of Yajuj and Majuj's eventual emergence. The Quran warns that when their time arrives, they will spread corruption and challenge the moral fabric of humanity. Scholars explain that this is not meant to incite fear, but to prepare believers spiritually and morally. Patience, righteous deeds, ethical vigilance, and trust in Allah's plan are essential tools to face trials that may seem overwhelming or beyond human control. Dhul Qarnayn's journey also teaches the balance between human effort and divine will. He acted decisively, but he knew that ultimate outcomes were determined by Allah alone. The construction of the wall required immense effort, planning, and skill, yet its permanence or eventual breach was beyond his control. This principle applies universally. Believers must strive, plan, and act with integrity, but must also submit to Allah's wisdom and timing. The hidden nature of Yajuj and Majuj serves as a metaphor for unseen challenges in life. Just as their existence was unknown to most of humanity, many trials and obstacles in our lives are invisible or delayed. Believers are encouraged to maintain faith, patience, and moral vigilance, preparing for difficulties with both spiritual and practical resilience. Dhul Qarnayn's foresight in constructing the wall reflects the importance of proactive action, guided by divine instruction. Even after centuries, the barrier remains a reminder of Allah's wisdom and the limits of human authority. Dhul Qarnayn's story teaches that while humans can take extraordinary measures to protect themselves and others, ultimate control over events rests with Allah. This duality, human responsibility paired with divine decree, is a central lesson for all believers. Success, protection, and justice require effort, wisdom, and reliance on Allah's guidance. The narrative concludes with a reflection on patience, trust, and preparation. The wall stands as a monument not only to human ingenuity, but also to divine wisdom. Believers learn that life requires foresight, ethical action, and steadfast faith, especially in the face of unseen or unpredictable challenges. Dhul Qarnayn's journey is a timeless guide for leadership, courage, and reliance on Allah, offering lessons that remain relevant for every generation. Even after centuries, the story of Dhul Qarnayn and the hidden tribes of Yajuj and Majuj continues to captivate believers, historians, and seekers of divine wisdom. The wall he built, stretching across distant mountains, remains a symbol of foresight, protection, and human effort guided by Allah. Yet, the ultimate lesson lies not in the stone and molten metal, but in the profound spiritual and moral guidance that the story imparts. Yajuj and Majuj, though hidden, are a constant reminder of the limits of human control. Scholars emphasize that their eventual release, at the time decreed by Allah, is a key sign of the approaching day of judgment. Humanity is reminded that no matter how powerful or prepared we may be, Some events unfold according to divine wisdom. This teaches believers humility, patience, and the importance of placing trust in Allah's perfect plan. Dhul Qarnayn's leadership offers timeless guidance. He did not act out of pride or desire for personal glory. Instead, he listened, assessed, and executed a plan that combined wisdom, skill, and obedience to Allah. The Quran narrates that he traveled to distant lands, aided people in need, and confronted immense challenges with patience and foresight. Scholars explain that this is a model of ethical leadership. True power is measured not by conquest, but by justice, protection, and moral responsibility. The barrier itself holds a spiritual lesson. Just as the wall shielded communities from physical destruction, believers are encouraged to build moral and spiritual fortresses in their lives. Faith, righteous deeds, ethical vigilance, and reliance on Allah serve as protection against the chaos and corruption symbolized by Yajuj and Majuj. The story teaches that preparation and patience, coupled with divine guidance, are essential to safeguard humanity and preserve righteousness. Even with the wall in place, the inevitability of Yajuj and Majuj's emergence reminds us that time, fate, and divine decree are beyond human influence. The Quran warns that when their time arrives, they will spread corruption across the earth. Yet this is not a message of despair, but one of preparation. Spiritual, moral, and communal readiness is essential to withstand trials. Dhul Qarnayn's story encourages believers to cultivate patience, strengthen faith, and engage in righteous deeds to navigate the unseen and inevitable challenges of life. The narrative also underscores the balance between human effort and divine authority. Dhul Qarnayn acted decisively and with wisdom, but he recognized that ultimate outcomes rest with Allah. Scholars emphasize that this duality is central to Islamic teaching. Humans are responsible for their actions, but the results and timing are determined by Allah. This is a lesson for every believer. Act with integrity, plan wisely, and trust in Allah's perfect guidance. Dhul Qarnayn's humility is another key aspect of the story. Despite his extraordinary accomplishments and vast reach, he never attributed success to himself. Every achievement, every solution, every act of protection was guided by Allah. This serves as a timeless reminder that all human efforts are ultimately dependent on divine blessing and guidance. True leadership, power, and success are inseparable from submission to Allah and recognition of His authority. The symbolism of Yajuj and Majuj extends beyond historical events. They represent the forces of chaos, corruption, and moral decay that exist in every era. Their containment behind the wall signifies temporary restraint and divine mercy, teaching believers that challenges are often hidden but can emerge at any time. Spiritual preparation, ethical vigilance, and moral fortitude are essential to face such trials, both visible and unseen. Dhul Qarnayn's journey also teaches the importance of foresight. He did not confront the tribes blindly or impulsively. Every step, every plan, and every action was deliberate and guided by wisdom. Scholars highlight that life requires a similar balance of patience, planning, and faith. Acting hastily without guidance or foresight can lead to failure, while combining effort with divine trust ensures meaningful and lasting results. As we reflect on the story, it becomes clear that Dhul Qarnayn's journey, the construction of the wall, and the hidden tribes of Yajuj and Majuj are more than historical events. They are a moral and spiritual roadmap for humanity. Prepare wisely, act justly, rely on Allah, and remain vigilant against forces that threaten righteousness. The story reminds us that human effort is necessary, but ultimate control and outcomes belong to Allah alone. Finally, the tale concludes with a call to awareness and action. Believers are encouraged to internalize the lessons, fortify their faith, act ethically, exercise patience, and trust in Allah's perfect timing. the wall the journey, and the tribes serve as eternal reminders of the delicate balance between human responsibility and divine decree. Before we end this incredible journey, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us which other Quranic mysteries or stories of the prophets you want us to explore next. The story of Dhul Qarnayn and the hidden tribes of Yajuj and Majuj is not just history. It is a guide for leadership, patience, foresight, spiritual vigilance, and complete reliance on Allah's perfect plan, offering lessons that remain relevant for every generation.